Hi church, Pastor Jeff here with another Trinity Check In. This week's video is going to be a bit awkward, and I apologize for that. You'll understand in a minute. I'm standing here on the corner of our church grounds. The church itself, the building is behind the camera, and you can see the stone sign there in the corner, Scooters and 402 Creamery over here and all that. But I wanted to be next to a tree today for reasons that I think you'll understand a little bit better in a minute. Before we get to it though, I do want to thank Pastor Catherine Ebeling Frazier for preaching last Sunday. It was very good to have her here while I was on retreat. And this Sunday we wrap up the Half-Truth series. Gotten so many good comments from everyone about this series and about what it said to them. I will tell you now, this last week is one that might hit a little close to home. The half-truth that we're going to be addressing is love the sinner, hate the sin. Now, I'm guessing that that's not a phrase that you say verbatim, those exact words very often. But is there anyone in this world where you try to love the person even though you don't agree with them, even though you don't like what they believe or the way they think, but you try to love the person even though you don't like all the things they do? Because if so, this Sunday's sermon is for you, and I will tell you, bring your seatbelt and buckle up, because it might not be an easy one to hear. It will, however, help us get from a half-truth to a fuller truth, and to look at the people around us with more God-like eyes. All right, with that said, I was on retreat last week, so thanks to Catherine and for all of our wonderful staff for keeping things going while I was gone. There's a lot I could say. I got some work done on the book project that I've been working on for a few years now, about a chapter and a half, but that wasn't the real reason I went. It was as much for spiritual retreat and some other continuing ed type projects that I had going on. But I have always loved and, to the extent that one can, identified with the mystics of the Christian faith, those who are really in touch with spiritual experience. Yet at the same time, I know that spiritual experience is something that's difficult to talk about. And in fact, that's why this video is a little awkward, because I recognize that there aren't enough stories shared of the spiritual experiences that we have. And in part, that's because, that is because of the fact that they're difficult to talk about. You can't put them into words, so how are we going to talk about them? Yet at the same time, if we never share, well, how do we learn from one another, and how do we grow, and how do we be inspired by it? So I can't tell you what I experienced on this retreat. There are actually lots of things. In prayer with the monks that are up there at the St. Benedict Center where I went. But there was one moment where it was on the very last day of the retreat, and I was putting pressure on myself because I was hoping to at least finish that second chapter of the book. I mean, I said I got a chapter and a half done, right? I really wanted to finish that other half on my last day, but it just didn't feel right. And I ended up sitting there in the library for a long time, just in silence and in peace. And by the end of the retreat, so many others of the cares of the world were finally beginning to quiet in my head, if not all the way. And the silence was wonderful. It was marvelous. And I remembered a book. Now, I say I remembered. I actually believe it was a Holy Spirit nudge causing my mind to land on a book that I had gotten at the bookstore while I was there. If anybody's curious, it's called Mystical Hope by Cynthia Bourgeault. And I started to read it. I was reading stories about the oneness of all things, how connected we all are. I mean, it's deep, esoteric stuff. It's not the kind of book you could just pick up on any given day. But it was the right moment for it. And at the end of it, not the end of it, I got to the end of a chapter and I just looked up and looked out the window and was myself overcome with the reality of it all. Now, yeah, psychologically I was primed by the book. Intellectually and being a lover of the mystics, I know that so many mystical experiences are exactly that sense of oneness. But looking out at the trees and the birds, there's birds all over, looking at the water that was in the lake, the sense that all of it was one and that I was one with it was overwhelming, and it was wonderful. And I don't know if you've ever had an experience like that, maybe where you've seen a sunset that took your breath away. That's one of those moments. Or perhaps, gone to the mountains or seen the Grand Canyon. Nature oftentimes does that to us. Or even heard a song or seen something like that. Or maybe you just had a moment for no particular reason. Those moments are gifts from God, and they're worth, well, we can't hold on to them, but it's worth holding on to the memory and appreciating them when they come. And even though I can't really explain what I experienced in this particular time, I at least wanted to share. And if any of you have had experiences like that, would you hit reply on this email and tell me, or catch me on Sunday morning? Well, that's kind of hard. Do it whenever you can and let me know. Invite me to coffee. I would love to hear more about it. Now, here's the part of this video that I hope is at least a little bit less awkward, and that is that there is a Fred Rogers song. You all know I love Fred Rogers from Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. There is one of his songs that is in part intended for littles to be able to sing, the youngest among us, but it's also one of the more contemplative, one of the more mystical of his songs. And it doesn't need accompaniment, you can sing it well without piano or anything. And I want to end by singing that song today. And if you don't understand it, if you don't get it, then that's okay. But I would invite you to stay with it anyway, and let the song do its work on you. And maybe that itself will lead you another notch closer to one of those experiences of God. All right, the song, and you're welcome to look it up on YouTube if you want to hear other versions of it, is called Tree, Tree, Tree. Tree, 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 tree. Tree, 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 tree. We love you, yes we do, yes we do, we love you. Tree, 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 tree. See you soon, church.